Welcome into the Autzen Audibles Podcast. Matt Preem, Eric Scopel, Jared Mack on this Thursday preview edition, or maybe it's a Friday, maybe it's a Saturday morning when you're listening to this podcast previewing number 10, Oregon, number 19, Colorado. Both teams undefeated. 12:36 is the official kickoff time for this game on ABC. Joe Tessitore, Jesse Palmer in the booth, Katie George on the sideline. It's been a while since we've had a Joe Tessitore called game. It's going to be kind of cool to hear his voice calling a football game. Well, we'll have to catch it on a record, but those who can't get to this game, it's sold out, by the way. Stripe out. I'm excited to see if that actually happens. I don't have a lot of confidence in that happening, but they're going to try. This is a good game, an exciting game, a fun matchup, a top 25 matchup, the first of the season for the Ducks, and we're going to run through it all here. We're going to start first, Eric, injuries. Give us just a quick snapshot of what we've learned this week from an Oregon perspective. We obviously know Colorado's Travis Hunter's out. I don't know who else from that side of the field will be out of that game. Also, McCaskill will be back for Colorado, their running back, but other than that, we don't know much for the Buffs. But what do we know about Oregon and just where things stand from them going into this game?
Not a lot is different especially from what we said on Tuesday, if you caught that show. And what we said there was that Nishad Strother was in cleats, which I believe was the first time I'd seen him in cleats in fall, at least since the injury. And Justin Jacobs was also in cleats on Wednesday. And this was maybe the more encouraging element was Nishad did take part in a full contact rep, which, hey, good to see. Don't think it means necessarily much of anything. And even if he is available, like, are we expecting he's going to displace Marcus Harper from the starting lineup? I'm not ready to say that. Marcus has had ups and downs, but I don't think it's time to pull the plug there. And I'll also add, I would be surprised if they pulled the plug after he was like the Oregon's representative on the team's coaches show last night, which, by the way, if you want to go watch, he's a crack up, very funny young man. So that's kind of the injury element. I think maybe we see Justin play, maybe Nishad's cleared, but the role that either one is available to make, I don't really know what it'll be, and it's frankly kind of hard to know, given how limited of information we're getting from
Dan. Let's go into just kind of now where things are at from our interest in this game, Jared. Like, we'll start here with you. What is something you're just excited to see play out in this football game? There's a lot of angles. There's a lot of storylines with this one that we could go a whole bunch of different directions.
Yeah, we sure could. I think overall, I'm just excited to see what Colorado looks like on the field compared to Oregon. There's just the talent disparity between these two teams could be legit. It could not be legit. The line is still like -21 in Oregon's favor, but Colorado has far exceeded all expectations so far this season through 3 games. I mean, their over/under heading into the year was 3.5 games, so they just need one more win to hit the over. So if anybody bet that, good on them. I'm not sure if it'll come against Oregon. We will get to our predictions later in this podcast, so then you'll definitely know what I think about the game. But I think I'm just excited to see a Dion-led football team in person, with the atmosphere, with the hype that has surrounded this game. I'm just excited to go in there and see what it looks like, more than basically anything else, probably more than like what the game play out looks like. I think it'll just be a really fun college football moment. And regardless of how the game ends, it's always hard to beat that in terms of college football and in terms of being a reporter and going to a game. Just the pure electricity a college football game can provide wins out. Like when Eric and I went to Salt Lake City in 2021, not a great day for an Oregon Duck, but holy cow, man, what an experience. Like those types of days, those types of games are always more fun than anything else. And I expect that exactly to be what it is on Saturday. So I'm excited just to go out and be able to cover a game of this magnitude, 2 top 20 teams, national television, ABC, Joe Tessitore on the call, like you guys are talking about. I'm just excited for the fun of college football more than anything else.
I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this game is sold out. I thought Oregon fans, frankly, against Hawaii, even though that wasn't a sellout, I think they were 5,000 or 6,000 short.
It was juice.
The students weren't back. I thought it was great. I thought there was a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a good environment for a non-conference game against an opponent that's not very competitive. I think this weekend's going to be awesome. I'm with you, Jared. I'm really excited for that component of it, and also like historically, Colorado just hasn't traveled, at least not to Autzen. Like it's been hundreds of fans. I'd be curious to see if they fill their allotment, if there's more than that, what the presence is from the Buffs there. That's going to be kind of fun to see too.
Do you guys? I've got a question for both of you. Do you think, with how important Colorado is to college football at this present moment, do you think the Autzen Stadium attendance record gets broken? And B, do you know what it is?
It's like
it's against Arizona State from I think 2012.
Is that 7?
11.
11.
Yeah,
against ASU in 2011.
Yeah, yeah. I remember it breaking. I think it's just over 60. I don't remember the exact number.
It's literally just over. It's 60,055 people. Oregon, in this past week, has sent out an email for standing room only tickets, which I don't remember happening in the last couple of years. Like as a student, I don't ever remember getting that email. So it goes back to 2016. As a reporter, I don't remember getting that email. That was an interesting one. Also, they're $144. So
yeah, I was gonna ask you, did you know how much they cost?
Yeah,
they're
for standing room only.
priced.
I don't think so. So do you think it's gonna happen?
Not at that price, not at $144. Eric and I are obviously older than you, so I at least remember standing room only tickets being sold frequently at Autzen when I was in middle school, high school, early age of college. But those tickets were always like $40. They weren't
They were the cheap seats. Yeah,
yeah, they weren't $144 to get in to stand. You don't have an option to sit down. I'm surprised the sellout crowd came in 2011 because I would have sworn it was. If you told me ASU, it would have been in 2007 when they played ASU at night and they were like a top 5 team. And I think ASU was a top 10 team. That's the game that Dennis Dixon got hurt originally. Or I would have said in 2010, I believe, or 11, when they played USC and LeBron James was in the stands. And do you remember when they built those like contraption, buildings that stood above the actual stands that were built onto the ramps? Like they built those things to add more people. Those are the 2 games I would have said. I even Googled it. ASU was 18th in the country. Weird. I'm very surprised that this is the game that broke the record. Super strange.
To your question, Jared, I'm going to say no, but I'm not going to be like completely stunned if it isn't really close or maybe it does happen just because the Dion factor. And if you're a fan of college football, like I think this game is going to bring fans that aren't Oregon and Colorado fans out in ways that Oregon hasn't traditionally happened. I think there's going to be people who want to see Dion's show on the road at Oregon against the best of competition that they've had this year and just see it in person, because I think that he's reaching, and you see it in the television figures, audiences that just historically haven't been Colorado fans, haven't been Oregon fans. Maybe that gets you closer to that, but I'll still say no. I bet you it's a pretty darn good number, though. I bet you we're going to be talking about it on Saturday's podcast, and maybe we are talking about a new record.
I'm going to answer my own question here. I think it's a yes. I think they're going to break it. I think everything's going right for it. It's a 12:30 kickoff, so anybody from Portland, which is going to be a lot more people than Eugene, can get down here in a reasonably timely manner and also get home in a reasonably timely manner and probably catch the whatever Pac-12 After Dark game is playing on Saturday. Plus all the hype and everything else that we've gone through basically all week. Students are back. It's going to be a great atmosphere. I think they do it. Plus, it's not unbelievably unattainable. It's not like there's some
isn't.
where they, like to Matt's point, like where they randomly built stands one day and it's like 64,000 and they would have to do that again, even though we haven't seen any construction going on at Autzen Stadium. So I think it's achievable and I think it gets done.
I wanted to bring this up. Do we see any celebrities on the sideline?
Absolutely.
I think the obvious ones are going to be Portland Trailblazer players that could come quickly down for the trip. Like, does Damian Lillard make an appearance? Do any of the other team players on that team come down? I don't know what celebrities live in the state of Oregon. I'm sure we could Google that, but do we see anyone fly up? Yeah, like do we see anyone fly in? And are they
100%.
on? And they're going to be, I think, more likely they're going to be on Colorado's side than Oregon side.
Oh, that'll be true.
Yeah.
I
maybe.
think so. We know one celebrity who's always there, and that's Phil Knight, who will be up in the Oregon's box. But like in terms of new people,
well, I say maybe only because I wonder what their affiliation is with. Is it with Dion, who's a Nike-sponsored athlete, or is it with Nike, who sponsors literally everybody going into this game? So
it's true.
Maybe we'll have some splits, some half and halves. I expect the celebrity pool to be deep. I expect it to be deep because there's no basketball going on, so NBA players are free to come. There's baseball going on, but there's not any. I like baseball alumni are going to show up here at Oregon. So no offense, baseball. Saturday in the NFL, maybe a Seahawk or two, maybe somebody who's on the West Coast, maybe Marcus Mariota. I think the options are pretty limitless here, and I think the stars will show up.
I am changing my prediction. I said no. I'm saying yes because I'm agreeing.
The sellout.
Yes, because I'm looking at the stadium records. Do you know how close they came last season against UCLA?
No, I don't. I think it was 59 something.
59,962.
Yeah.
They were less than 100. They were less than 100 away, and 100 more people are going to come to this game because of Dion and because of Jim Kelly.
Yeah.
So I'm with Jared now. Yes, that will fall.
I mean, I was basically straddling the fence. Why don't I just tip it over and jump and join you guys, and we'll just all have fun and say it's going to be a stadium record. And then if we're all wrong, we can all be wrong together on Saturday. How's that?
Sure.
Which would also be a state of Oregon record for the largest crowd of people at a sporting event.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. I'm not sure what else it would be.
It was a car show.
Yeah, something really strange.
Legit. No, it was a car show.
What?
I looked this up last night. Yeah, no, it was like in 1993. I think it was like 63 or 64,000 people.
Oh, so it actually isn't the record. It is some car show.
It would.
Okay, cool.
Oregon would need to have the Autzen Stadium renovation real fast to get the record. So, shout out to that 1993 car show. I'll go look it up right now and get some
details
stuff here.
Yeah, get some details. I'm really curious on that. I was 4 when that happened, so I would have no recollection, and more of an F1 guy now, but certainly not enough to know about car shows in the 90s. Yeah.
I think for me, real quick, just to wrap this question up, I'm just curious to see just how good Colorado is. I want this to be a good game. My score prediction is going to suggest otherwise, but I'm curious to see how good Colorado is. And it goes back to, are they for real? I think we all have our questions around that. They're certainly improved. That's undoubtedly true. But just how much have they improved? And if this is close, what does that say about Oregon? Is that a sign that maybe Oregon isn't as good, or is it a sign that Colorado's just a lot better than what we have given them credit for, and they've just played, they've played who they've played on their schedule. You can't control that, and they dominated 2 of those teams, and they didn't play a clean game. Deion Sanders said that himself. They didn't play clean against Colorado State, and it was close. They had to come back and win. So I think I'm just really curious to see what a team that had 70 new players on its roster looks like from year 1 to year 2 and just how good they truly are. There's
For
just
me,
a lot of fascination.
yeah, for me, it's the quarterbacks. I made the case preseason if like Bo's case for a Heisman, and I don't even want to get into the conversation for Heisman because we're so far out. But the case was like he plays Michael Penix, he plays Caleb Williams, he'd play one of those in a conference championship game. Well, Shador has become one of those guys, and I think this is that kind of an opportunity for both Bo and Shador to go against one another and to maybe get a leg up on the other, depending upon how they perform. So I'm fascinated by Shador. I mean, I think he's been awesome. He's certainly exceeded all expectations I had for him making that move up from FCS. And as Adam said, by the way, great show with him. I'm sure. Hopefully, those who are listening to this also checked out that podcast. But as he kind of said, this wasn't a traditional FCS move. This is a guy who had offers from, that was being recruited by SEC schools, that was being recruited by some of the best in the country, but chose to go play for his dad at Jackson State. Like he could have been easily the quarterback at I don't know, name a school, in the SEC, South Carolina, where his brother played or something, perhaps. But he chose to make a different choice because of his family. So I shouldn't be too surprised, but the dude looks for real, and I'm really excited to see him in person.
I have the answer if you guys are ready for it. So Oregon versus Arizona State is the second highest attended sports event in Oregon history. It's 60,055. Number one, the CART Portland 200 Champ Car event in 1993. Like I said, 63,000 flat. It's the number one.
What was what's the venue? Where were they actually racing that at? I'm curious what venue could hold that many in Oregon. I'm assuming that's outside.
I didn't look that up.
I'm just curious now. Because I don't
know the details. I said, there you go. I can look that up. I can give you the whole event.
Maybe that's a post-pod conversation. I was just curious, like what venue in the state was big enough to have that many people attend. So that's interesting. It's got to be
like at a Portland Raceway.
No. Yeah.
And it's not really like stands.
I think it was the Portland International Raceway.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was it. All right, so
good deal. All right,
there you go.
Hey, all the answers in the pod.
I want to quickly talk football. Yes. I listened to Josh Pate yesterday, who gave his prediction on this Oregon versus Colorado game, and what he said was exactly what I was thinking going into this game. Is that we've talked a lot about Oregon and their hope for a playoff, their hope for a conference championship, Bo Nix's hope for a Heisman, all the stuff that happened preseason with the billboards, all that stuff. There is no, at least not yet, there's no better opportunity for Oregon to go and prove themselves now than against Colorado. So, Bo Nix, if you want to be a real Heisman contender, go do it in front of 11 million people. Because this is the only time Oregon's going to get this many people watching their game. Maybe against USC down the line, depends on when it is during the day. This weekend, it's 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. The whole world revolves around Eastern Standard Time. That's just what happens. And everybody on the East Coast is going to be able to watch this game. And it's Deion. And it's Colorado. And it's on ABC. So everybody who has a television or has some cable package or YouTube TV can watch this game. And if you're Oregon, nobody thinks anybody can beat Colorado. Like they're like the team of destiny. I know that they're a 21-point favorite, but the argument is Colorado was a 23-point underdog against TCU.
Right.
Now they're 21 points. Who says they can't do it again? They've already done it once. Trust in Deion Sanders. And they just might. Who knows? This is why you play the games. It's what I love to say. This is why you play the games. Maybe Oregon craps the bed and Colorado takes the first victory of the season against the Pac-12 opponent. But if you're Oregon, what better stage to go out there and prove your worth than doing this and beating Colorado, maybe beating them soundly in front of millions and millions and millions of people. So, boom. I think this is the moment where, if you're Oregon, you cannot let this go to waste. And if you're Colorado, you want to prove yourself, same thing.
Jared brought up the TV ratings, and I wanted to ask you guys that when he brought up the attendance record. We found this out earlier. Highest rated TV game for Oregon during the regular season is 7.7 million people watching, or 7.7 million people watching a football game. That was Oregon LSU season opener Labor Day weekend in Texas a 8:06 p.m. kickoff. The second highest is the game we were at 2 years ago at the Big House, or at the Shoe. 7.73 million. Oregon upsetting Ohio State on Big Noon Saturday. Colorado has 25 million. I think that's what Adam said on the podcast yesterday. Over 3 weeks of football. They've hit 9 million twice.
Yeah.
Last week, most impressively, at like 2:00 in the morning on Sunday morning. Do they hit? Is this another record that falls? Does Oregon get to 9 million?
You have to argue. Like, I don't even know what the argument against it would be. Like,
Ohio State, or not Ohio State.
I know
Alabama, Ole Miss. Yeah, Alabama, Ole Miss play at the same time.
Sure.
And then UCLA and Utah play at the same time. So a lot of people in the LA market are going to be presumably tuned in to that game.
Yeah, but I again, my point earlier, I think, yeah, no, undoubtedly. I mean, I would be really surprised if it didn't. Just because, again, I think you're reaching audiences that aren't normally interested in Oregon or Colorado football. So, like, I'm going to actually this would be interesting. I bet you LA will, more people in LA will probably watch Utah, UCLA, but I bet you won't be by as much as people think. Because I think there's a real fascination with Deion Sanders, and there's a real appreciation for Oregon as a brand going into this game. And frankly, if you're a Deion fan and you live in LA, who do you want to beat more than Oregon? Like, that's the team that you want to see go down for various reasons, even if your allegiance is split between UCLA, USC, and Colorado in this instance. So, I think even with some of the competition there, Bama is a tough one, but I think there'll be more than 8 million people who watch this football game. Is my guess.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll get to 9 just because of the other games going on, but breaking Oregon's previous record with the LSU season opener, I don't think there's any doubt. Like, the LA market, I know that it's tough that UCLA and Utah are going, but LA market's like 20 something million televisions. Like, even if they get a quarter of the network the televisions of Los Angeles in that area, that's still like 6 or 7 million people. Yeah, and they won't get a quarter because that's an astronomical number. Right. But you're still going to get, like, USC fans aren't going to be watching the UCLA game unless it's like just purely out of hate. But they're probably going to
they hate Oregon more.
Right. They're going to hate watch Oregon and hope that they lose to Colorado. So you're going to get a couple million there. You're going to get a couple million all over the country. But if this were the 7:00 Pacific Standard kick, I don't even want to know what the numbers would be. It'd be astronomical. I think it'd be like 12, 15 million.
Oof. Yeah. I don't even think you're wrong.
All right.
Colorado State got 9 million. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I agree with Jared. We could see crazy numbers if it was a standalone game. But let's go now to some discussion on the field.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
Let's do some keys, maybe something that we're worried about for this one. Then we'll take a break and we get into our predictions here. I think a key for me is obviously getting to Shedeur Sanders. His drop back, I don't know if you guys saw this or not on PFF. He's been pressured on 33% of the dropbacks that he has had this season. And when he's not pressured, he's completing like 85% of his passes. And that number dips down to, which I still think is a pretty impressive percentage, but 58%. I mean, that's a pretty big dip in his production, almost 20%. Bo Nix, from a comparable standpoint, has only been pressured 8% of the time, and in his dropbacks this season, and he is completing 65% of his passes when he has been pressured. That's a very small sample size,
right?
But this feels very easy to say. But the key is just that you got to get to Shedeur Sanders, and you got to finish the play too, because as Dan said, his eyes and his vision, his escapability is really, really good. And I think that's really the only way that this Colorado team and their passing attack is going to get some of these big plays ripped off against Oregon, is if the secondary breaks down because Shedeur Sanders scrambles away from pressure, and that makes the defense kind of react and come to him. If they can keep the pocket contained and they can get pressure to him and make him throw it quickly to a dump off pass. He'll still complete it, but a potential for a 12 or a 13-yard gain turns into a 3 or a 4-yard gain. And, basically make Colorado go the length of the field every single time that they get the football. I think if they do that, Oregon eventually will make the plays needed, and they'll get some turnovers, they'll get some stops, they'll get the ball. But if they can't contain the pocket, they can't get to the quarterback and actually finish the play and get him down, I think we're going to see Shedeur Sanders create some crazy plays. He's going to do this. He's going to rip off some big plays. And that's where we're going to see the broken coverage. That's where we're going to see a ball thrown up in the air and it's one-on-one. And Jimmy Horn Jr. is going to make a play and make a catch, and it's a 44-yard gain on 3rd and 19 or whatever. And all of a sudden, Colorado's at midfield and scoring position. You can't have those type of plays. And if it happens frequently, we're going to get a shootout. And if it doesn't happen, I don't think Colorado can hang with Oregon's forces.
That's a good place to start, Matt. That's a good place to start, because I really truly think this game comes down to it. Can Shedeur do it? Like, I don't see an angle aside from just Oregon completely imploding up. Like, I'm trying to think of the last time against a non-Georgia opponent where it was just like, oh my God, they're not competitive. They blew, like Utah 2021, those type of games where it's just like everything goes wrong. But this is a home game with the environment behind them. I don't think Autzen's going to let that happen. So to me, it's Shedeur. And to Matt's point, you got to get to him. You got to pressure him. You got to challenge him. And then kind of the thing I'm looking at here is the turnover battle. These are the top 2 teams in the Pac-12 in turnover margin, and kind of for different reasons, because Oregon has forced 6, I believe, and has not given up 1. And Colorado has forced 10 and given up 4. So to me, it's kind of where the rubber meets the road. Is if Colorado, aside from Shedeur, a key for them has to be, let's go force some turnovers. And Oregon has proven to be very, very good at avoiding that. Bo has been, aside from one pass against Texas Tech that was initially, I think, ruled an interception and reversed, he hasn't really put the ball up for grabs at all. And again, that speaks to, and you remember that play where he threw it up for grabs, there was a little bit of internal pressure. He had to get out of the pocket and start moving. If Colorado can make him do that, kind of the inverse of what Matt was talking about a moment ago with Shedeur, maybe that's where Bo tries to do too much and makes a mistake or two. But if you're Oregon, if you protect the football and if you force some turnovers, which Oregon's been pretty good at so far, last couple of games, that to me is potentially the difference maker. But if Colorado wins a turnover battle, this game not only becomes a shootout, but it becomes probably kind of tough to win almost.
Yeah, the fewer opportunities you provide Shedeur, the better. And Colorado State could tell you that firsthand. They had a couple of dumb penalties that kept drives going, which I know isn't a turnover, but it just keeps a drive going. And then they had 4 turnovers against Colorado, and that directly gives Shedeur the ball. Those extra plays, those extra possessions gave Colorado the lead ultimately. And for Oregon, you have to keep him on the sideline for as long as you can. And maybe that includes just running the ball for a whole entire series, just kind of like the BYU package where you run 4 to 6 times in a row, then you stay in that same package, you hit for 15 yards, you just keep the defense on their heels. Maybe it doesn't, but Oregon's offense, they need to capitalize every single time they go down the field, because as we've talked about on this podcast, Colorado's defense has really struggled this season. And without Travis Hunter, who's one of the best players in America and is going to be an absolute transcendent talent as soon as he's healthy, and probably next season when he's draft eligible. But until he comes back, that's going to be a secondary that even Deion says is going to be cornerback by committee. When you're going against a team that's been averaging over 50 points a game, and I know the Portland State game really helps, but they'd still be over 40 if they scored a normal or reasonable amount. That's not a great thing to have when you're a quarterback by committee. Going against Bo Nix, going against Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, all these guys. So Oregon's offense absolutely needs to crush it when they're out there on the field. And the pass defense for Oregon, I think, is another huge concern. Shedeur has lit up defenses.
Yep.
He's been unbelievable this season. And if you watch the Colorado State game, he came in clutch. He came through in almost every scenario, and he made some absolute darts. He threw some absolute howitzers out there. So if you're Oregon secondary, I kind of expect them to play very similar to Hawaii. Maybe a little press man coverage here to there, but you're not beating us deep.
Yep.
And we're going to keep everything in front of us. We're going to try to make you run the ball as often as you can. If you want to hit a 6 to 7 yard gain and just go all the way down to the red zone, sure, it gets tighter down there, tighter windows to make throws, harder throws. That's fine by us. I think my one worry for Oregon's defense is honestly their outside run protection. Like Hawaii got around the corner a lot. Texas Tech got around the corner a lot. Even Portland State got around the corner. Like they're just not able to set edges. And if Dylan Edwards, if he gets an edge and is able to plant a foot and
Look
go,
out.
yeah, like there could be an absolute breakout game from Edwards if he can get around the corner once or twice, because there are a few people in the nation who are going to be able to stop him. And maybe it's Roderick Pleasant who stops him because he's also really damn fast, but he's not going to be playing. So that's something I worry about on Oregon's defense. But I kind of expect them to play how they did against Hawaii. Like if you want to try to beat us deep, try it. We're going to have a deep safety on both sides of the field, and we're going to have man coverage. So good luck. Hopefully it's the best throw of all time. But if you want to hit 6 or 7 yard flats, unders, out routes, be our guest.
Could be a big game for Brian Addison. That tall frame back in the secondary.
Yeah.
Could be. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll dive into some of our game predictions, our bold predictions first, and then wrap it up with score picks. All right, welcome back to the Autzen Audibles Podcast. Bold prediction time. Update of the leaderboard. Nothing has changed. Jared is still in first place with a 5-7 record. He went 1-3 last week. All of us went 1-3, by the way.
On the board.
Eric is on the board. He is 1-11 or 1-11. I'm 4-8. And then game predictions also through 2 weeks. We didn't have. I should say 3 weeks. Sorry, we didn't have a spread for the first game against Portland State. Technically, there was one, but we didn't. I'm not counting it. It's offshore banks and whatnot. We're all 3-0 straight up. Eric and I are tied for first against the spread at 2-0, and then Jared went 1-1. He missed. He had Hawaii just covering last week.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let's go to offensive team predictions here. I've got it where Colorado is, statistically speaking, one of the worst defenses in the country in major categories. Oregon's offensively one of the best offenses in a lot of these categories. I think Oregon has a bunch of talent. In this game, I'm saying one Oregon player goes over 100 yards receiving, and then 2 others hit 65 yards or more receiving in this game. That has happened once in the last 15-ish games, 16-ish games. It came at Washington State last year when Oregon had a player go over 100 and then 2 others hit 65 or more. And that happened to be Bo Nix's career high at Oregon with 428 passing yards. I don't know if Bo's going to hit his career high, but I do think we get 1 duck over 100 yards receiving and 2 more in that 65-yard range.
I've got a fun one, I think. Do you know the last game a non-receiver had a receiving touchdown for Oregon?
Are you counting tight ends?
Non-receiver?
Yeah, I'm counting tight ends, running backs, anything besides a receiver.
Is it Ferguson?
Yeah,
Well,
did you say Ferg?
No, it's not. Do you know which game? Do you know how long it's been?
Cal Herbert on the long touchdown catch.
It's actually Colorado last year when Nix, Connerly, and Madoval all caught touchdowns.
Huh.
Wild.
8 games since Oregon has had a 9-receiver score touchdown on a reception. I thought that was interesting. So I'm going to predict the streak ends. It's bookended by Colorado games here. So the last time it happened was in Boulder, and then it happens this weekend. So that could be a running back. It could be a tight end. As I mentioned, it could be your left tackle again. Maybe Josh Connerly. They do that again. Feope, yeah, maybe it's a Feope eligible. Maybe it's Bo Nix on a pass from Bucky again. I would be stunned if these are the outcomes. But I'm more banking on the fact that Oregon's running backs and tight ends are going to be involved in the pass game. The running backs already have been pretty involved. Like Bucky's actually, I think, second behind Troy in receptions. I could see there just being one where they break it and get in. So I thought that was kind of an interesting angle to hit. So yeah, I think a non-receiver is gonna catch a touchdown pass.
I went kind of lame, but I think Oregon's going to put up the most yards against Colorado of the season. TCU did in the first week. That's still the number one. They had 541 yards. So all Oregon needs to do is put up 542 yards. I think the lowest total yards Oregon has had this season is 476 against Texas Tech. So
yeah,
that seems pretty. Yeah,
another 70 yards against Colorado's defense, which, again, for Colorado fans who are listening, I hope you realize that the defense isn't great. I think Colorado State probably proved that. I think Oregon is a better team than Colorado State. I think that, just in my humble opinion. And I think that they're going to have the opportunity to not run up the score or anything like that, but gain yards. I think that they can have these flats, they can have these mesh routes, they can run on the ground. I think Oregon's offensive line should set some good blocks here against Colorado. I think that there's just opportunities to gain yards, and 542 yards it's certainly not unheard of from Oregon's offense. So that's my prediction.
Offensive individual. Patrick Herbert's playing a lot of football through 3 weeks for the Ducks. He's already at half the number of snaps he played all of last season. He played in all 13 games for Oregon. I think this is going to be a game where we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets for Oregon because A, it allows them to split Ferg out into the slot when they want to throw the football, and B, they can slow it down and be really aggressive with their run game and having 2 tight ends out there. Herbert's been a really good player on both run and pass plays for Oregon this season. And so I think he's going to be on the field quite a bit, which opens up the opportunity for him to make some plays. So I think he's going to get 3 or more catches and 25 or more yards in this football game, which could go into Eric's point of a guy scoring a touchdown that's a non-receiver.
You're not gonna predict a touchdown?
I'm not. I'm just saying 3 or more catches and 25 yards.
That's a pretty low bar. Okay.
Well, his career high is 31. So,
yards?
Like 30.
Well,
or no, season high. Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay.
Season high. Season high is like 35.
Well, then why don't you pick a season high? I'm just trying to make sure if we're going to be competitive with these predictions.
Okay.
I don't want another Bo Nix complete 65% of his passes again, which he's done in all but one game in his career at Oregon. I'm gonna push back. So make it whatever his season high is. Do that.
Damn.
All right.
Well, I mean, I get made fun of for being 1-11, and Matt predicted 65% completion percentage.
No, I said 68. I said 68 and a half.
It was 65, I think. But if it wasn't, it was something he'd done almost every game in his career high. His career percentage at Oregon is 74. Sorry, I'm getting defensive, guys, because I don't like being 1-11. But it's fun, and this is supposed to be entertaining. Because what else are we supposed to do with our sad, pathetic lives? This is the way it goes, man. All right, individual offense. Try to pick this back up again here after I made it really sad for a second. I think Bucky shows up in the biggest moments. I think we've seen that throughout his time at Oregon.
Oh, man.
I've stayed away from a Bucky Irving prediction since last year when he just kept not doing the thing I said he would do. So I'm going to change. I'm going to change course this year. It's a new year. I'm turning over a leaf. Jared's already had some success with a Bucky prediction. I was looking at his career high rushing stats from an individual game perspective. 149 yards against North Carolina last year. I think he does a little more than that. I'm going 150 or more. I'm setting the bar high. In his career so far, he's been over 140 twice. Against North Carolina, where he had 149, and against Washington when he had 142. Again, 2 big games, 2 very competitive games. When the team has needed to utilize him, they have. So I'm going. He has a couple of big runs. He gets over 150. And sets a new high watermark.
I wish you left that leaf not turned. I wish you would have just let me pick Bucky and kept my good vibes with Irving so far this year. Instead, I'll go with Tez Johnson. Eric, let me know if this one is good enough for you. Mm-hmm. I got over 95 yards and a touchdown or more.
Yeah,
on the game.
Acceptable.
I just think Tez has been He was obviously tremendous against Hawaii, and I think that's just how Oregon is going to use him. I think his numbers would look even better this year if Nix had connected on a couple deep balls, which is something that they're working on in practice so far this week. And I think that there's going to be opportunities for Tez to break free. I think there's going to be opportunities for Troy and Gary Bryant. I thought about doing a Gary Bryant thing because he's kind of been like the unsung guy of this receiver room, but he's been really consistent every single week. I thought about doing a prediction for him, but I think Tez just in for a good game. I think he's such an interesting wide receiver. He's very difficult to game plan against. They're going to pay a lot of attention to Troy because obviously he's the number one, but Tez and Gary, like those guys are solid 2s or 3s or however we want to put them. I just think Tez is going to have the better day at the office.
Just real quick, just so you know, Eric, Herbert's only had 2 games in his entire career where he's had more than 2 catches, or he's had 2 or more catches in a game.
Okay.
So I'm already saying he's gonna.
I just wanted the yardage. I wanted the yardage a little bit more. What's the what's the yardage? What's his high in this season?
This season is 34 yards.
So 3
his
for 30.
Career high is 46.
3 for 35.
I think 3
career
for 35. High in receptions.
I think 3 for 35 is good. I think I'll accept it. Or do you just want to do 3 receptions and just take the yards out?
No, that makes it easier.
Okay. All right. I'm trying not to be too difficult here because I feel bad like I'm poking, but I want to make sure we're all making bold predictions, not just predictions here. And I'm not getting ridiculed because I'm the one making the boldest ones and missing.
All right. Defensive team predictions now. Shedeur Sanders, week 1, caught the nation by storm. 510 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think he completed like 80% of his passes. Was just absolutely bonkers crazy good. And then backed it up with 393 against Nebraska. And then last week against Colorado State. The trend continued. And I say this as an air quote trend of downward trend. He threw for 348. I think every quarterback in the country be like, wow, my worst game is 348. So I'm not trying to say like he's struggling. I'm not saying that. Good. But I do think the number continues to go down. And so I've got him throwing for his fewest yards this season to date. The number is 347 or less in this game.
It's funny because we're like basically playing prices right here because I was predicting he was going to join a very small company who's thrown for 350 or more against Oregon. So I guess we're just like directly. It's going to be us at the very end looking at the box score. So that's my prediction so far since Dan Lanning's been here. Stetson Bennett, Cam Ward, and Michael Penix have all thrown for 350 or more yards. I think Shedeur becomes the most recent and makes it 4. And to Matt's point, he's averaging 417 yards per game. So that's a lot. And I don't think maybe he gets there, but I would imagine it's going to be more than 350, but not to his average.
I had the same one as Matt. I thought that was
I'm sorry.
Like kind of not a shoe-in, but you look at Shedeur's game log, and he so in the first game against against Texas Christian, he had 38 completions for 47 attempts for 510 yards. He had 38 completions on 47 attempts for 348 yards against Colorado State. So what have people learned? They've learned that you need to stop letting him throw the deep ball.
Yeah,
his average goes from way over 10 yards a completion against TCU to I think it was 9.15. You can check me on my math. I was doing long division when Eric was complaining. It was 9.15 or 9.51 or 9.57. I can't tell what I wrote here. 7. So that's why I had Matt's idea. The Oregon was going to drop into these deep coverages and just not let them throw deep. Instead, I have to figure it out now. I think Oregon's going to force some turnovers. I got them 3 or more. I think at least one of them is going to be an interception. And not that Shedeur is bad or anything like that, but stuff happens. This was going to be my bonus bet of the week that Oregon has their first turnover this game. That's my bonus bet. So everybody go bet on that on the DraftKings Sportsbook or Caesar Sportsbook. I've got 3 or more turnovers. I think that there's going to be some fumbles here, mostly because I am not 100% convinced that Colorado's offensive line can stop Oregon's defensive line, especially the interior. And this is a game for somebody in the interior, Popo, Keon, Taki, Casey Rogers, somebody like that, Brandon Dorlus, if he's lined up on the interior, really get to the pocket. Maybe there's a forced turnover a la Jamal Hill on a blitz, something like that. So I got 3 or more turnovers.
I don't know if this is good. I just found this stat. I'm just going to give it to you guys right now. I literally just saw it on Twitter. Yards allowed before contact defensively. Oregon has, according to Parker Fleming, he looks like a respectable person on Twitter. A lot of people follow him that are college football reporters. He's got 28,000 followers. In today's day and age, that could be all bots. We don't know, but he looks like to be someone that's respectable. He pulled this stat up. Oregon is the 3rd worst team in the country in yards allowed before contact at 3.62. Colorado is better at 2.91. I just saw that and wanted to share it real quick. My individual prediction, I don't really know. Is this cheating? Because if it is, tell me. I'm not naming a specific player. I'm just saying someone is going to get 1.5 or more sacks in this football game.
You got to put a name to it.
I think we got a name. Yeah.
Name? All right, Dorlus.
Dorlus. Okay.
Yeah. I felt like it was cheating. I know Jared, I think a couple weeks ago, picked I'm going to give these guys or this position group, these guys are going to do something, or maybe that was Eric. I can't remember, but
it was me.
Maybe it's cheating. I don't know, but I'll go bold just for Eric's sake.
Thank you.
I'll attach a name to it and say it's Dorlus. 1.5 or more sacks in this football game. This is where I got the stat of clean pocket pressure for Shedeur Sanders. I think this is going to be, it's the easiest one that you could clip, but it's the biggest focus for this defense is get to Shedeur Sanders. And we've seen Dorlus make big plays already this season. He got the tackle on Tyler Shuck on 4th down. He got the quarterback pressure on that throw that Jeffrey Bossa intercepted. I'm pretty sure he was pretty close to another pressure that resulted in interception this season for Oregon, I think against Hawaii. He has been all over the place. I think he's going to finally finish some of these plays and get multiple sacks in a game. And so I'm going Brandon Dorlus, 1.5 sacks or more in this game against Colorado.
Unfortunately, by forcing you to pick somebody, you've picked the person that I was going to pick to do the thing that I was going to pick them to do. Love how that worked out. And I was
you could give me my original pick.
No. You can have that. I mean, really, my thesis statement here was internal pressure is where Colorado's had more problems than not. And when Dorlus does line up outside primarily, I think on the high percentage of majority of his snaps. But I go back to that Texas Tech game and where he had success from it was from rushing in, over the guard and making hay upfield, and that led to the Jeffrey Bossa turnover. So that was my logic there. How about this? I'm just going to go Popo Amavai, 3 straight games with a sack. Oh, sorry, Jared. Yeah. Look at this. Yeah. This has been a game of dominoes. Like Matt pushes his down. I change mine. I have to change mine into Jared's. But I don't have this in front of me. I'd be curious. I'll fact check this after I'm done with this. But I would wonder the last time, and maybe Jared's looked it up since it was his pick. The last time an Oregon defender had sacks in 3 consecutive games. I imagine it's not been super recent. But anyway, that's where I landed. I'll go with Popo for a sack.
Yeah, I had Popo at 2 sacks. He's been really good. Excuse me as this garbage truck goes by my house. He's been really damn good so far this season. I think it's exactly what Oregon and Dan were anticipating once getting him back now that he's fully healthy. So I have to change my pick again. A 3rd time, actually. Goodness gracious. 3 of my 4 picks have all been changed.
Can I make a suggestion going forward? If Jared we should change the order of announcing our predictions. If Jared is going to go last, he's going to have his picks taken more likely than the others. And so why don't we plan on doing it snake draft style almost going forward?
Sounds good.
We can do that.
I can change my guy too. I can give you Dorless. I can go to Mateo. I feel fine going to Mateo.
I had Popo originally, so it wasn't you who picked my guy.
I picked his guy after you picked my guy.
Well, only so many guys to go around. I'm going to get out of the defensive line. I'm going to go with
out of there.
Jamal Hill. He's been steadily pretty good this season. He's been starting basically every game in linebacker except for Portland State, where Bryce Betcher started. I have him at over 5.5 tackles and over a half tackle for loss. I think he gets in there at one point, gets his hand on a running back, maybe a quarterback, forces a tackle for loss. I just think that he will be, it's kind of like how I predicted Kyrie Jackson last week in Hawaii. Like he's just going to be around the ball. There's just going to be plays in front of him or plays around him, and he's just going to be there. So over 5.5 tackles. So Jamal just going to be 6-1. That's all I ask for.
Doable.
Yeah. Doable. Very doable. All right. Game predictions here. I've gone back and forth on if Oregon covers or if Colorado doesn't cover or does cover or if the Ducks backdoor cover. And that's where I landed. A backdoor cover by Oregon. I'm going to call it semi-backdoor cover. I just think Oregon has as good, if not better, talent at basically every position than Colorado. They have the better depth. I think in games like this, in an environment like this, team chemistry does factor in. And this is a team at Oregon. While they do have a ton of transfers, they don't have a lot. They don't have nearly as many as Colorado. And I think, yes, that game was at TCU week 1. That was a sold-out venue. But TCU's atmosphere on game day is not Autzen Stadium. It doesn't come close. We've talked about the fact that we think this could be the most attended game at Autzen Stadium history. I think that's going to factor in. This crowd's going to be amped up. It's going to be juiced. I think Oregon's going to make the plays. I think they're going to flex their depth. They're going to flex their talent at certain positions. Colorado's defense just won't be able to hang with Oregon, and it'll get to a point where just every single time Colorado has to come out and score a touchdown, that's really hard to do on a consistent basis. Not make a single mistake, don't turn the ball over and score 7 points every time. Field goals aren't going to help you in this game. I think that feels like both ways. So I have Oregon covering. I think in the fourth quarter we're gonna see the middle eight show up here. Oregon, I think, is gonna dominate in that factor, or we're gonna see a couple of drives where they just chew up a bunch of time. They score touchdowns, they get a stop, and they go down again, do it again. Give me Oregon 49-24. Both Bo Nix and Shedeur Sanders have big games, but it's just going to be, the depth that shows up for Oregon, and they kind of wear Colorado down in that fourth quarter.
As I am prone to do, I am making my prediction around a stat or some historical stuff here. First off, average margin in Oregon's 8 wins over Colorado since Colorado joined the conference. Have you guys looked at what that is? Do you know what make a guess?
35?
36.9.
Wow.
The closest game, though, and this is where my prediction is formed around.
2016
was 20. Well, Colorado won that game, but the closest Oregon win is what I was getting at. Colorado has won the one time. It's really interesting, actually, if you look at the series history, because Colorado's won 27 games in the Pac-12 since joining in 2011. 8 of them happened in 2016, which also happened to be the year Oregon won 2 games, which is the lowest they had won in, at that point, about 20 years, since 93. This is about the closest these teams have been, though, I think, like both being like relatively good. Like both, certainly the first time in a long time since they've both been ranked. I think we talked about that earlier. That was the Fiesta Bowl in 2002. But the closest Oregon win came the year before that in 2015 in Boulder, when Oregon won 41-24. So my prediction is that this game is 1 point closer than that. So it's the closest Oregon win amongst the currently 8 wins in the series since Colorado joined the conference. And I am predicting 44-28. I think this game is going to have major shades of UCLA last year, maybe a little of that BYU last year. To Jared's point earlier about making a statement, I think that's what this game is going to be, even if it's not a cover. Because you think about both those games, the margin was very similar. I think the UCLA game was 45-30, and I can't remember exactly what the BYU score was, but it was close. It ended up being about 2-score game, but Oregon dominated from start to finish. So I think that's going to be how this plays out. I think this is going to be a statement game. I think Oregon's going to be really, really impressive. The depth of their talent is going to show up, and I think Oregon will control this one from the start. But ultimately, it will only be a 16-point win, so they'll miss the cover.
I've got Oregon 42, Colorado 24. So we're all in the same kind of ballpark here. I also don't have Oregon covering at 18 points as a differential, not the 21. I just checked on Caesars. It's still 21. The over-under is still 69.5. Nice. And it's not going to get there for the over. And I don't want this to be like, oh, Oregon didn't cover the spread. It's a bad game. No, I think an 18-point win anybody would take.
Sure.
I've had a tough time with this one this week because while I agree with what Matt said, where Oregon is clearly the better team on paper, they're a better team talent-wise, recruiting, all that stuff. It's a second year for Dan. It's a second year under Tosh. There's more players, continuity. Colorado's just, I don't know. They're frisky. They're frisky. It wouldn't surprise me if we're up in the press box and then this is 42-38 and heading into the fourth quarter. Because, we have talked this week about what will the secondary look like. I talked about it on this podcast today. I am still not 100% sure what it'll look like because Shedeur will be the best quarterback Oregon has played to date. Yes. And he might be the second or third best quarterback this year that Oregon plays. It just depends on how you feel about Michael Penix, but Caleb Williams will obviously be the number one. Shedeur's probably the third best. I like Penix more. But when you're talking about guys who are probably going to be day one draft picks, they're going to face three of them. And Shedeur is the first round test. And I have some kind of blind confidence in Oregon's secondary just because of what I really liked about them against Hawaii last week and their man coverage and their communication in the back end and being able to cover some talented receivers. Colorado's receivers are better. Their quarterback is better. They run a different offense, but similar characteristics. There's a part of me that thinks Oregon's going to score. I don't have any doubt in that. But I also think that Colorado, if they get humming early, they can score. And they can score with the best of them, as evidenced against that Texas Christian game. Like, this could be a barn burner heading into the fourth quarter, like something like 54-51 or something like that. So right now I got 42-24 Oregon. Wouldn't be surprised if this one is absolute mayhem. Pac-12 after dark in the middle of the day.
Yeah, to you guys' point, like I'm the only one that has Oregon covering, but I think it's going to be some kind of a backdoor fourth quarter cover. I have in my game predictions. I've already got mine loaded into the system. And you can't read it right now, but it'll go up later tomorrow. But I have in that description saying Oregon's going to trail in this game. I have full confidence that happening. And it's going to take like a middle eight where Oregon scores at the end of the second quarter or very close to halftime, and Colorado just didn't have enough time to drive down the field and score. And then they get the ball again to start the half, and they score another touchdown, and all of a sudden a tie game or a 3-point game explodes to a 10 or a 17-point lead, and then Colorado's just having to play catch up in that second half, and it's always one score back to two, one score back to two, and then Oregon eventually scores that one. But I'm in agreement. Like I think if Colorado gets going early and Oregon's defense gives up a broken play for a 45-yard touchdown pass off a Shedeur Sanders scramble, to Jimmy Horn, who cuts across the field, and then Oregon goes, and even if they don't go 3 and out, but they don't score, they don't respond with a score, and Colorado goes down again and scores, it could be a game where this is 59-56 going into the last possession of the game. It could be one of those ones too where literally no defense is played because of how good both offenses are. I just think I think the home factor, I think the depth is going to be something that just makes a mistake for Colorado.
I did have a bonus prediction that would explain my weird score for Oregon. I think Oregon is going to go for 2 on one of its first or second touchdowns and will not get it.
Ooh.
That's a good one. I like that.
That's how I get to 44. Dan has brought up the fact that they like being aggressive there because it forces the opponent to chase points. I think this time maybe it backfires. And to Matt's point, maybe they're trailing 7-6 early or 14-13 early because of it or something. So,
right.
But yeah, I wrote that down. I forgot to mention it when I was making my score predictions. I think they'll do one of those 2-point conversion plays. I don't know if Patrick Herbert will be throwing it this time, but I think it's not going to work this time, and it'll cause the crowd to groan, and people on social media will criticize Dan and all sorts of fun stuff.
Can't wait. Last minute prediction for everybody here on the podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
We talked about celebrities coming in the game.
Yeah.
Name the biggest celebrity that comes to Eugene, Oregon, other than Phil Knight and Deion Sanders. Because those guys are both going to be here.
Did you have one to start, Jared?
Oh, buddy, do I?
But you're confident we won't take it. Because I was going to give you the opportunity to go first, since you always go last.
I'm not overly confident, but I'll take the reins here. LeBron James is going to be in Eugene, Oregon this weekend.
That was actually what I was going to say, so I'm happy you went first.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead, Jared. Or go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say I think it's going to be LeBron with his boys, and they're going to be there, and it's going to be a thing. And to the point earlier about which sideline is he on? Well, when Oregon played USC, there was the reason that Dwayne Wade, and all those guys were there was the Nike connection. Yes. I don't think he's on a sideline like the whole game necessarily. I don't know where he's going to be, but I don't think he's going to be like posting up on the Colorado side, because I think that's going to look bad for the Nike. I don't think Bill's going to be happy with one of his premier guys.
That's why I brought it up earlier.
Yeah,
like the Nike connection is going to be stronger than the Colorado connection. But Eric, you don't have another guy? You don't have another one off the top of your head?
Well, the one name I wanted to bring up that's just a lame name. That's not even a big enough celebrity. I'll tell you afterwards, because it's just a Colorado player that plays for the Blazers that I guarantee will be there. I guess it's just Jabari Walker. But from like an actual big name one, I'm trying to think of someone with some Florida State connection that might be there. Oh, it'd be really funny is if Willie Taggart was there.
I'm pretty sure he's coaching.
Oh, he knows. He knows the area. Yeah, he's the running back coach for like the Dolphins or something.
Yeah, he's somewhere in the NFL. Somewhere in the NFL.
The Ravens with Harbaugh.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously Neil Everett's going to be here. Deion will be here. Phil Knight will be here. Who's the guy that's from that ABC TV show? It's like they're like a family.
Ty Burrell.
Ty Burrell, yes.
Burrell.
I bet you he'll be here, but I'm not going to count him.
I've got a sneaky one.
I kind of think Lillard's going to be here. I think there's going to be a batch of Blazer guys that will be here at this game. But from a pure like big name, I don't know. I feel like the Blazer one's like really cheap. Man, this really gets me. Shoot. I'll just go Damian Lillard. I feel like
that's fair.
That's
a celebrity.
A big name.
I wanted to play 7 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. How about this? So Caitlin Olsen is a University of Oregon graduate who is starred on Always Sunny in Philadelphia with her husband Rob McElhenney, who owns Wrexham United, which is Wrexham FC, which is a football team, with Ryan Reynolds. So maybe those crew come and watch the football game to support Caitlin's college. That would be my really out there, like I said, 7 degrees of separation, a lot of weird moving parts. Not confident at all in any of that, but just a shout out to an Oregon alum who knows some famous people.
What about Dan Fouts and Ahmad Rashad? 2 guys that kind of
sure, why not?
Oregon connections.
They went here.
They certainly went here. They're football guys. They're big names. I was trying to go golf, but a lot of the big name golf people are going to be over in Europe now for the Ryder Cup. Because I was thinking some kind of like Nike connection with golf. I don't think Tiger Woods lives in Florida. He's not coming across the country with his injuries.
I mean, Michael Irvin will probably be here. There'll be. I mean, if we wanted to go on the Dion side of things, there's a lot of Dion connections. Yeah. So, but there's some names.
Where are we going to see these people? Are they going to be
in the stadium?
Are they going to be on the sideline, or are they going to be like in a booth and we see them on TV because they're like panning around? Oh, look,
both.
Yeah, it's not a lot of room on the Oregon sideline.
I think a lot of these are booth people. I'll be honest. I think these people want to be in booths.
I think they'll be sidelined pregame, not during the game.
Correct.
I don't think anybody's allowed to do that.
Yeah, not really. You can't. I think. Yeah. Anyway.
What about who's the country old dude?
Country old dude. Willie Nelson.
Like he lives in.
That's a good one.
He's an actor. He plays like all the country western.
No, you're talking about Sam Elliott from The Big Lebowski, who lives somewhere in Oregon.
He lives in Lebanon, like the Lebanon Salem area. Yeah, he might be one here.
Why not?
That's not quite LeBron James.
Random Oregon celebrities. Yes.
Well, he's actually.
He's
pretty famous from like the '90s, but yeah.
Oh no, 100%. But yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Autzen Audibles podcast. Thank you for listening to the show. Next time you hear from us, it'll be post-game Saturday evening following Oregon, Colorado. Hopefully we all get treated to a fantastic game. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the tailgates before and after. And until then, you've been listening to the Autzen Audibles podcast.
Talk to you later, folks.
Peace.